Hi everyone, Dr. Matthew Stay here, and today we're going to be talking about a quick but effective chiropractic examination for the golfer and baseball softball athlete. Now, whether you're swinging a club or a bat, proper mobility, stability, and alignment are crucial for peak performance and injury prevention. Now, any good examination is going to incorporate postural assessments, balance testing, joint and muscle palpation, as well as range of motion and orthopedic testing as indicated. However, we like to use functional screens to assess a person's ability to perform basic movements used throughout the day. This includes simple things like bending, twisting, squatting, standing on one leg, as well as other common movements that a person is going to use throughout their day. If you've seen our previous videos in the spring sports series, you'll know that rotation is particularly rotation of the hips, mid-back, and shoulders is essential for both golfers and your baseball and softball athletes. So we're going to take a look at some of those key screens of those areas here and show you what that looks like. So we like to examine the mid-back and the shoulders together because these areas work in unison together. If the mid-back doesn't have enough mobility, that can create excessive strain into the shoulder girdle, which can lead to repetitive strain injuries. So some common screens that we like to do for this area are as follows. So this one's called a lumbar lock test, and this is really going to give us some information about how well he's able to move and can control that motion through the mid-back. So I'm going to have him place his right arm on the lower back. He's going to look at his right shoulder, and then he's going to try to turn like he's inside of a barrel. You can see he kind of shifts his weight off to the side. Now, if I come in and help him here, I can create this, and it looks a lot more pure rotation and not so much shifting off there. So he has the ability to move. He just doesn't control it very well, which would require a little bit of rehabilitation to train his body's ability to rotate through the mid-back. The next test that we like to do is what we call a scapular rock test. So he's going to go up on his hands and knees. And this is a good way to determine how well he's coordinating movement through his shoulder blades as well as his lower back. So all I'm going to have him do, keeping his elbows straight, he's going to move forward as far as he can. And you can see here right away, this right shoulder starts to peel away a lot more prominently than the left shoulder. And then he's going to come all the way back, hips to heels. Another common thing, and he'll keep rocking forward. Another common thing we see here is a little bit of dumping into this lower back, and he does it some, and that can indicate that the latissimus dorsi muscle is becoming overactive. He's not terrible there, but this would be a little bit more of my concern, where he's not stabilizing that shoulder blade very well. All right, our next test that we like to do for the mid-back and the shoulders is our overhead extension test. So our model here, he's going to put his feet together, arms overhead. And what he's going to do is he's going to try to extend as far back as he can. What we're looking for is that the shoulder blades clear his heels, which he does. We're also looking for a nice smooth arc, and this is where he fails. He starts to round here, and then it's just a straight line through his mid-back and then some more rounding. So a lot of mid-back extension issues there. Okay, the next thing we like to do here is an overhead squat test. So I'm going to give him this golf club. Yep, and we're going to turn and face the wall. So he's going to hold that club overhead, and he's going to go into a deep squat. And what we're looking for is he's able to keep that club overhead. And you can see that his arms do drift forward a little bit again because he's got some mid-back mobility extension issues here. Go ahead and do that a couple reps there, make sure we're not missing anything. And you can see his arms start to shift forward a little bit. He's not terrible. I've seen worse, but certainly something that needs to be worked on. Good. All right, and then the next one, we're going to go into the half kneeling position. You can face the camera. So for this one, this is a good way to determine how much mobility or rotation is actually coming from his mid-back or how much of that's coming from his shoulder blades and lower back. So from here, all we're going to do is just have him rotate to the right, and you can kind of see he goes about 90 degrees there just looking at that club. So we're going to come back there, and then we're going to put the club behind his back where he's going to hook it with his arms, and we're going to have him rotate to that same side. We're looking for about anything more than a 10-degree difference. And you can see he doesn't quite rotate as far. That might be almost 10 degrees. So there's probably something that we need to address here. Either he's getting too much rotation through the shoulder girdle, through the shoulder blades, and or the lower back, and not enough through his mid-back. The hips are important for transferring energy from the upper extremity into the lower extremity and vice versa. Not having an adequate amount of mobility through the hips can lead to problems upstream into the lower back or downstream into the knees. Here are some common functional screens we like to use for this area. So the first one we like to do here is assess his ability to rotate his shoulders independent of his pelvis. All right, so go ahead there. Let's go there. So we're going to see if he can keep his pelvis still while he just rotates his shoulders from side to side. And you can see he does a decent job here. Go ahead. He gets a little bit of movement through the hips as he comes through, particularly right there. So let's see if I block that, if he does any better. And I can feel a lot of that force there. He'll tell you this feels a little bit different too. Good. So that's our torso rotation, and this gives us an idea if we have to work on, again, some of those mid-back mobilities that we were just showing. Now, for the pelvic rotation is just the opposite. He's going to keep his shoulders still and try to rotate the pelvis. And he's kind of giving you a little shimmy there, not so much more rotation, but more shifting. So again, we're going to block their shoulders and really try to turn the pelvis. Don't shift it. Try to bring your hip in front of you. There you go. That's a little bit better there. Good. So there's that. The next thing we like to do is assess their ability to see if they can go from a posterior to anterior pelvic tilt. So we'll have him face that way. And he's going to see how well he can bring his hips forward and back. Good. And you can see he does struggle with this a little bit. When he comes forward, he lifts his body up a lot to try to compensate for his ability to do that posterior pelvic tilt. And these are some simple things that we could just have him work in front of a mirror to help him improve. Okay? Pause. Another test we like to perform is a single leg step down, and this is going to give us a good idea of how he's controlling his movement through the hips. So I'm just going to have him simply step forward and just tap his toe and come back up, and then to the side and to the back. And we'll cycle through that a few times. And what we're looking for is to see how well he's controlling his whole body, as well as to see if he's having any of his knees caving in. And you can see he's struggling to keep that knee in a nice solid place there. It's just a lot of in and out movement of that. So it indicates that there's some hip mobility or hip stability problems. And we'll check the other side too. Again, pretty good through the whole body, but again, the knee starts to cave in a little bit. Yeah, you can see that there. All right, good. Okay, so this is our modified Thomas test, and this is going to give us some information about how the hip flexors and the quads and some of those other muscles around the hips are behaving. So we're going to have him go ahead and into the position. He's going to pull the knee up to the chest and rock back. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure. Now, if he had some tight hip flexors, you would see this leg lift up off the table and not lay flush on the table. But his hip flexors are actually okay. However, he does have some quad tightness. You can see if I go and just try to let the knee or let the shin lay, completely plumb line down. If I take my hand off, it shoots right back out because these quads are just a little overexcited there. And you would do that on both sides. The other test we like to perform here is a glute endurance test. So he's going to lay back on his back, and we're just going to simply put him in a glute bridge position. We'll do one leg at a time. We're going to have him take his left leg straight out, and this is testing his right side. We're just seeing if there's any excessive shaking, any cramping in the hamstring, anything like that, if he starts to drop or sag too soon. And they should be able to hold this for about 20 to 30 seconds in normal conditions. And then we'll have him switch to the other leg and then just test that one out as well. And again, looking for excessive shaking, if he has any cramping in the hamstrings, if his hips just slowly drop back down. And these are all good tests to perform. If you don't have adequate strength through these glutes, you're going to have some issues with, golfing and playing baseball, softball. Using these tests, we can pinpoint areas that may be limiting your performance or putting you at risk for further injury. Now, whether it's using spinal adjustments, mobility drills, or strengthening exercises, we will be able to tailor a game plan to help keep you playing pain-free and performing at your best all season long. Do you want to optimize your game and perform at your best? Well, give National Pike Chiropractic a call today to schedule your consultation. And don't forget to check back next week for the final video in our spring sports series, simple and effective stretches and warm-ups to perform for the golfer and baseball softball athlete. Have a great week, everyone.